Hey everybody, this is Sheets, and I'm going to be going over tonight's Showdown slate. Philadelphia at Dallas. Bobby's out, so I'm going to be doing this on my own. So for those of you who are premium members, my projections sheets are up on the website for you guys. But as I've mentioned before, there's very few things, very few slates that for which projections are less important than an NFL Showdown slate. You just really want to do the best you can to get a randomized lineup that's going to be somewhat unique, that's got a chance to win. And you think, well, obviously, but it's not that easy. You know, you could come up with some good plays that rate to be duped with zillions of people. And you can come up with unique lineups that have no chance to win with all backups. But somewhere in the middle is where I think you need, obviously, is where you need to tread water, or you need to tread. I do think that this slate is a little different than the ones that we have been reviewing over the last couple of weeks. The last few weeks, I've identified, several just kind of long shot plays that I thought were kind of worth taking stabs at, like these $200, $400 plays that I thought could really get there. But I think that with this particular game, I do feel as though that the quote unquote good players are going to be responsible for an incredible amount of the fantasy points. And that's not always the case with some of these showdown slates, but I feel as though, and this is really strange to say, that the majority of the edge to be gained in tonight's slate is going to be from fading the plays that people are going to quote unquote take stabs at. I feel as though that people are going to just go, I don't want to say bananas, but they're going to play some of these guys that really don't have much of a chance to do much. And the good news is that I think that you could build lineups on the slate with the regular players, and be unique enough where I think it makes sense. So let's go through this, and we'll talk about construction, and we'll talk about correlation along the way. And I guess we're going to start at the quarterback position, and both Prescott and Hurts, I mean, obviously rate to be probably the best plays on the slate, right? I mean, neither of these teams have shown a propensity to do much defensively, and both of these quarterbacks are in great shape. Prescott obviously is the better quarterback with the better weapons. So when it comes to touchdown passes and yards and things like that, that Prescott is certainly, the better option. But I mean, Jalen Hurts has that rushing upside, which Dak Prescott does not have as much of. So Jalen Hurts is obviously a really, really strong play as well. And you could probably play them both without a lot of stress. So I do think that in most builds, you're going to probably want to do that. Now, again, we're trying to get back to basics here on a slate like this. And so if you're going to play these quarterbacks, you have to figure out which receivers, if any, you're going to use. Now, as I just kind of alluded to, I think it's more important to have a receiver paired with Dak than it is to be paired with Hurts, because Hurts can, he can get his on his own. Yet still, I mean, I think that you do want to just identify receivers from Philadelphia as well. And I think that Philadelphia, as far as the receivers go, I think that the target share, the fantasy points, whatever, I think it's going to come from three spots. One is going to be, and I can't figure out which can be the best one, but I think Devonta Smith and I think that Rieger, I think the two of them are really going to be dominating the wide receiver targets and the wide receiver fantasy points. I think that if you try to do some stupid crap, like you go with, you play Greg Ward, I mean, you could play Kez Watkins. I really think that on a slate like this, and in a game like this, I think that Hurts is going to be looking for his top dudes, and that's going to be Rieger and Smith. The other place that he could look and that would be the tight ends, which would be Ertz and Goddard. And I actually don't like the Ertz play all that much. The people are going to play him because he's really, really cheap. But for whatever reason, the Eagles seem to have been getting away from going to the tight end on a regular basis. They've been doing alternative formations and things like that. So I think that actually Ertz is going to be somewhat over-owned with respect to his real chances of doing very well. The more interesting play, which I think I might end up fading, or at least going under on, it might be Goddard. What makes him interesting is that when they get down to the red zone, he has been getting quite a bit of the attention, and it makes sense. A big dude, whatever it is. So I prefer Goddard to Ertz if it was down at the tight end position. And I think that Ertz is probably going to get owned because, look at his price, only $2,200, right? So he's $2,200 and Goddard is $6,600. I don't think anybody in their not right mind, but I think that a lot of people would end up playing Ertz because of that price. But I don't like the tight end position for Philadelphia in this matchup. And if I think that people are going to try to go double tight end, I think people are going to be really on these tight ends, and I might end up going under on those. So for me, with the receivers, I prefer to go with Devonta Smith and or Rieger along with Hurts. Now, again, I don't think this is as important as people, will have you believe, but I feel as though if you're going to play Hurts, I think that you probably want to stick with one of the receivers in each lineup. Because I feel as though a lot of Hurts's value is going to come from his running. And if he gets into the end zone, one of these receivers is not getting that touchdown, right? Makes sense. And it's okay if you don't have two of them, right? So if you have Hurts and both receivers, I don't think that's the way to go. I think that you want to play either Hurts and Smith or Hurts and Rieger, but I don't think that you want to play Hurts with Smith and Rieger. And you can, if you're hand building, you can obviously do that pretty easily. If you're using an optimizer, you can sort, using HQ or with SaberSim, you can make that work for you. So from the Philadelphia side, as far as the passing game goes, that's what I think I want to do. The other thing that you want to think about on the Philadelphia side is the running game. And there are two components to this. So the easy component is Miles Sanders, right? He's been around. He's the top running back, and he has big play upside. He certainly can do something. He hasn't gotten quite as much work out of the backfield as far as as far as receiving. First game he did, he had 4 receptions, but in the last game he only had 2 targets. And that's because they've been looking for this Kenneth Gainwell. Kenneth Gainwell had 3 targets each of the last 2 games. He actually was in college. He was a decent receiving back as well. So I think that he is certainly in play here at 5K. So I do think that, again, you don't want to be sneaky. I think that you do want to only play one of these 2 running backs if you're going to play them. So if you want to do something, right, if you want to be kind of a balanced type build and you want to have a lineup that's, that's very favorable to Philadelphia, I think that you want to play Hurts, maybe one of Smith or Rieger, and maybe one of Sanders or Gainwell. I don't think you should be too cute. I don't think you should game script build. And that's probably going against what a lot of people think out there. I just feel as though that if you overdo that, you're just going to miss out on some of the kind of smart randomness that just happens. So if you say, "Boy, I don't want to play Sanders in a game script where the Cowboys are going to do well," I think that's asking for it. I think that you want to just make good plays that have upside, and then when some random crap happens, you could be on the right side of it. And if a lot of people are over game scripting, I think you kind of pick up on that. That's again, I have no data to support it, but that's my take. And the other part, obviously, of the Philly side is the kicker. And Jake Elliott's been a tremendous kicker for a long time, and he's 3,800. The thing is that if you're not going to dip into these $500 guys, these $1,200 guys, and I'm suggesting that you do have to get salary savings somewhere. And I think that Elliott's a very, very strong idea here. I mean, my first builds are getting just an overwhelming amount of Jake Elliott. Now, again, if you get a big shootout where you get, multiple receivers getting multiple touchdowns, I mean, Elliott's just not going to make it for you. But if you get like kind of a reasonable game, just right around the total, I think Elliott can score enough points. He can get a couple of long field goals. And again, I wouldn't get too nuts though. I wouldn't say, well, if Elliott scores, that means that you don't get as many touchdowns, so maybe I won't play him with receiver. I think that's overdoing it. Okay, I don't think it's the right idea to play, for example, Hurts with two receivers with Elliott. That's probably not the right idea, but you could certainly play Hurts with Elliott, with Rieger, and I think that's just fine. Okay, I guess before we finish, Eagles defense, before you say no, they're only, what's their price here? The Eagles, I think they're got to be like 3K, right? Let's see. They're 3,200, and all I'll say is that there's going to be a lot of throwing in this game, and if you get one of those shootouts, it's always possible that some ball gets tipped and it goes the other way. And I'm just telling you guys that I am going to have some Eagles. So what does this mean from the Eagles side? Does that mean play everybody? No. I mean, I think I've already identified some places where you want to be under. I think you want to be under on the tight ends. I think you want to be under on the cheapos, such as Ward and guys like that. And I do think that you probably don't want to play both running backs together. You don't want to play Sanders with what's his name. And if you play Hurts, you don't want to play two receivers. So I think that you can play these Eagle guys without going too nuts and make decent lineups. Okay. Dallas. I already mentioned Prescott. And I also feel as though the receiving is just really between Cooper and Lamb. And you might be thinking, oh, Sheets, thanks a lot. I mean, you really need to tell me that? I think I do if people are going to go too crazy with stuff like overplaying Cedric Wilson, Cedric Wilson, everybody's kind of showdown darling, and they ever replayed him at 3K or whatever it is. But in reality, when it was not Cooper and what's his name? And CeeDee Lamb time, I mean, Cedric Wilson was not really the man. He only had like 3 targets, 2 targets. It's not so easy to say, okay, I'm going to play Cedric Wilson. They sometimes will do lineups where they split out Pollard. They'll sometimes do lineups where they play 2 tight ends. So it's not as if Cedric Wilson is necessarily the third option. So I that's going to be my fade. Is I will probably fade Cedric Wilson. The next receiver I would use would probably be one of the tight ends. So it would be either Schultz or Jarwin. As I mentioned, when they do go to third down packages, they will actually split them both in there. And I think that Jarwin is probably the better play between him and Schultz. I mean, not only does he have, he's got the targets, but he's got some upside. He can catch some longer passes, I think, than Schultz. So I do like him better than Schultz. Let me see if people are going to game log watch to see Schultz. No, not really. Well, they might see that he did have 6 out of 6 targets in that Tampa game, so maybe they'll play him a little bit more than maybe he should. But so I do like Jarwin as the better option between those tight ends. I will say something else. I'm pretty sure from a running back standpoint, let me take a look at this. Yeah, I thought that was going to be the case. I mean, I'm probably going to have 0 Zeke, and I've been on 0 Zeke for like a while here. I just think that he's still being priced as that number one running back, and I just don't think it's the case of him anymore. I think that he's in almost a full 50-50 split with Pollard. And unfortunately, I don't think you're getting enough of a price discount on Pollard to make that work. So as gross as this is, I might just be off of the running backs for Dallas. This might not be your Dallas, your grandfather's Cowboys, where they just slam it down to Zeke every play. This is a new day, and I think that Prescott's going to be spreading around to these receivers, and I think that's the stand I'm going to end up taking. I think that if you run lineups and things like that, you probably might get to some Zeke, and I think that a lot of sharp players will probably play Pollard. But for me, I'm probably going to end up fading at both. Now, let me just see, like in my initial builds, did I even get it to any? I didn't even get to any Pollard at all when I did my first build. So for me, I think that's the hill I'm going to die on. So when it comes down to it, you can build lineups and be somewhat unique without necessarily just playing crappy players. You just need to fade good players, sort of. To finish off the Dallas discussion, I do like Zerline as well for all the reasons that I liked Elliott. So I do have a decent amount of him. And I have a few Cowboy lineups defensively too. That's where I think I'm going to recommend you guys going, is to not dip into those 300s, not dip into those 1200, whatever it is, and just kind of make some strategic fades. Like right now, that's what I'm doing. I'm fading the running backs for the Cowboys. I'm also fading the tight ends for the Eagles. And that in and of itself, I think is going to make my approach to the slate somewhat unique. That's about it. I don't know if Bobby's going to be on with you guys live, but if he is, maybe he's going to be completely different than I am, which is okay. He's probably better at this than I am anyway. Good luck, everybody, and let's get it.